Welcome to my channel Official History of Coins. Pull up a chair and get comfortable, because today I want to talk about something you've probably held 100 times without ever really looking at it. Picture this. You're emptying your pocket chain. Let's get specific. The coin I'm holding in my mind's eye is a United States 1-cent piece known as the Lincoln Wheat Penny, and this particular one is dated 1936 with a tiny D mint mark stamped right below the date. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than pocket fluff, scratched, worn smooth in places, and coated in that dark, patchy patina that old copper gets after decades rattling around in jars and cash registers. But here, where curiosity starts to creep in. That same ugly, beat-up appearance is exactly why so many valuable coins get overlooked every single day. People see the grime and the scratches and assume it's worthless, when in reality, that humble little wheat penny could be worth more than a full day's work. So let's slow down and figure out why. The Lincoln Wheat Penny was first minted back in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and it quickly became an everyday workhorse of American commerce. By 1936, the country was still climbing out of the Great Depression, and the Denver Mint, that's what the D stands for, was churning out millions of these pennies to keep change moving through cash registers and lunch counters. But here's what makes the 1936 D different from all the other wheat pennies you might find. While millions were made, very few survived in anything close to nice condition because people actually used them until they were almost blank. The ones that did survive often ended up lost, thrown away, or melted down over the years. So finding any 1936 D today, even one that looks rough and dirty, is actually getting rarer by the year. And rarity, even in an ugly package, is where value starts to creep in. Now let's talk about what you need to look for on your own dirty old penny. Flip it so Lincoln's profile is facing you, and check the date first. Clear and readable is good, but even a worn date can still be a winner. Right underneath that date, look for the small D mint mark. If it's there, you've got a Denver coin. Now turn it over to the reverse side, where you'll see the famous 2 wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent. Here, where it gets interesting. Even on a scratched, worn coin, some details might still be sharp. The lines in the wheat grains, the shape of Lincoln's jaw, the letters in Liberty. Collectors don't just care about perfect, shiny coins. They care about originality. And a coin that looks ugly but has never been cleaned or messed with can actually be far more desirable than one that's been polished to a fake shine. So take your time. Look for any unusual marks, doubling on the letters or date, or anything that seems off. Those so-called errors can turn a regular penny into something truly special. Here's the truth that most people never learn. Ugly coins have value too. In fact, some of the most expensive pennies ever sold were far from beautiful. They were dark, spotted, uneven in color, and full of character. Why? Because collectors know that a coin story is written in its surface. That black gunk you see, that's over 80 years of natural oxidation, and it's actually protecting the metal underneath. Those scratches and wear marks. They prove the coin was really used, really handled, really part of American history. So don't let the rough appearance fool you. A 1936 D wheat penny that looks like it was pulled from a parking lot crack could still be worth serious money depending on how much detail remains and whether it has any rare die varieties. I've seen examples of this exact coin sell for $850 in what dealers call good condition, just because the date and mint mark were clear and the wheat stalks still showed some texture. Step up to a very fine grade with most of Lincoln's hair details intact, and you could be looking at $1,300 or more. And it doesn't stop there. If you happen to find a 1936 D that somehow avoided heavy circulation, maybe it sat in a forgotten drawer for decades, and still retains a good amount of its original reddish color, the value jumps fast. We're talking $2,100 for a nice uncirculated example, and if that same coin has full, sharp wheat details and virtually no marks, you could easily see $3,400 at a reputable coin auction. But here, where it gets really exciting, In the highest preservation levels, with original mint luster and a strong strike, a 1936 wheat penny has been known to bring $4,700 or even a little more, depending on the bidding that day. That's nearly $5,000 for a single penny that most people would step right over. So yes, that dirty, scratched, worn coin in your change jar really could carry that kind of value. You just have to know what you're looking at. Before you get any ideas about making that old penny look prettier, stop right there and listen carefully. Do not clean it. I'm going to say that again because it's the most important thing you'll hear today. Do not clean your coin. No soap, no water, no baking soda, no vinegar, no rubbing, no polishing cloths, nothing. Cleaning a copper penny strips away that natural dark patina that collectors prize, and it leaves microscopic scratches that instantly drop the value by half or more. That $4,700 penny becomes a $20 penny the second you scrub it. If your coin is dirty or sticky, leave it exactly as it is. Put it in a small cardboard flip or a soft plastic sleeve to protect it from more damage, and then take it to a local coin shop or send clear photos to an online expert. Let them tell you what you have. Because the only thing worse than overlooking a valuable coin is destroying its value with good intentions. So here, where we end up. That worn, grimy, scratched-up 1936 wheat penny that looks like nothing but pocket trash might just be the most valuable coin you ever find. It has real value, even in rough shape, and especially if the details are still readable and the mint mark is clear. The key is to slow down, look closer, and stop judging coins by their dirty faces. Check your change, check your old jars, check that pile of pennies on your dresser. You never know when an 80-year-old piece of copper is sitting there waiting to be recognized. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and remember, don't clean it, just keep looking. I'll see you in the next one. Next coin, take a close look at this coin. A 1945 United States 1-cent piece, commonly called the Lincoln Wheat Penny. The first thing you'll probably notice is how tired it appears. The surface is dull, more of a muddy brown than the bright copper you might imagine, and the high points of the design are worn almost smooth. Look at Lincoln's cheek and the area just above his ear. On a heavily circulated example, those details have faded into flat, featureless zones. The reverse side, with its 2 wheat stalks framing 1 cent, shows similar softening, especially along the kernels and the inner edges of the stalks. There are likely small nicks, shallow scratches, and maybe even a spot of corrosion or two. From a purely visual standpoint, this penny looks damaged, neglected, and exactly like the kind of coin most people would toss back into a junk drawer or spend without a second thought. But that quick judgment is exactly why so many coins with real value slip through our fingers every single day. Why do we misjudge the 1945 wheat penny so easily? Part of the answer lies in its appearance. Unlike a shiny modern penny, an old copper coin that has circulated for decades builds up a layer of natural oxidation that many people mistake for dirt or damage. We see the uneven toning, the dark patches, the lack of luster, and our brains immediately file it under worthless pocket change. Then there's the date, 1945. It sounds recent enough to be common, especially when you consider that the mint produced over 1 billion pennies that year across all facilities. But here, where the analytical part kicks in, high mintage numbers do not automatically mean a coin lacks value. The real question is how many survived in any collectible condition, and more importantly, how many are being sought after by a growing community of wheat penny enthusiasts. The 1945 penny sits right at the tail end of World War II, a year when copper was still critically important for the war effort, yet the mint kept striking cents for everyday use. That historical backdrop gives this coin a quiet appeal that many beginners overlook entirely. Let's walk through the visible features you need to check on a 1945 wheat penny, because identification is the first step toward understanding its potential. On the obverse, you'll see Lincoln's profile facing right, with the word Liberty behind his back and the date in front. Above Lincoln's head, the motto, "In God We Trust," arcs across the top. On the reverse, Centered between the two wheat stalks, you'll find 1 cent and United States of America, with the Latin phrase e pluribus unum along the upper rim. Unlike the 1936 D we discussed before, the 1945 penny can carry either no mint mark for Philadelphia, a D for Denver, or an S for San Francisco. That tiny letter, located directly below the date, makes a huge difference in scarcity and price. Many people assume all 1945 pennies are the same, but a 1945 S in decent shape is far less common than its Philadelphia counterpart. So the first analytical step is to flip the coin, find the date, and look right underneath it for that mint mark. If it's there, you've already narrowed down your coin's identity and opened the door to real value. Now let's talk about why collectors actually want this coin, because understanding demand is key to understanding price. The Lincoln Wheat Penny series is one of the most collected American coin series ever, and the 1940s hold a special place for history buffs. A 1945 penny was minted while World War II was ending, using shell casings and recycled copper in some cases, though by 1945, the temporary steel cent experiment of 1943 was already over. Collectors love the wheat reverse design, which was only used from 1909 to 1958, and they love assembling complete daytime mint sets. That means even a modest, worn 1945 penny has a home in a beginner's collection, which keeps demand steady. But the higher prices come from coins that have retained unusual detail or escaped heavy wear. For example, a 1945 penny that still shows distinct lines in Lincoln's hair and full separation of the wheat grains can be worth significantly more than a slick, featureless example. And because so many 1945 pennies were pulled from circulation and spent to death, finding one with even moderate detail is becoming genuinely difficult here, where the numbers start to surprise people. Most circulated 1945 wheat pennies trade for just a few cents or maybe $1, but that's the average. The moment you find a coin with above-average detail, the value climbs fast. A 1945 penny in what dealers call fine condition, where most of the design is visible but the high points are worn, can easily bring $920 at the right collector gathering. Step up to very fine, where Lincoln's jaw and cheek show only light wear and the wheat stalks remain sharp, and you're looking at $1,650. Move into extremely fine, with almost full detail and just a trace of rubbing on the highest points, and that same ugly-looking penny, still dark, still slightly scratched, still circulated, jumps to $2,750. Now, what if your coin avoided the worst of circulation? What if it sat in a roll or an old jar for decades and came out with most of its original surface intact, even if it's not sparkling? An uncirculated 1945 penny with original mint color, even if that color has darkened to a rich chocolate brown, can command $3,850. And at the very top, for a gem-quality example with full luster, sharp details, and no major marks, the price can reach $4,900 or more, especially for the scarcer San Francisco or Denver issues. But here's the crucial point that most people miss. Even a heavily circulated, worn, scratched, and dull 1945 penny can still be valuable if it has a specific error or variety. For instance, some 1945 pennies were struck with a doubled die on the date or the word Liberty, causing a subtle but distinct shadow effect. Others might have a repunched mint mark, where the D or S was stamped twice at a slight angle. These are not the kind of errors you need a microscope to see. A simple magnifying glass and good lighting are enough. So that beat-up penny you thought was worthless might actually be a known variety that collectors chase specifically because it's unusual. The key is to never assume that wear equals no value. Instead, approach every old wheat penny with a calm, analytical eye. Look for anything that seems doubled, misshapen, or out of place. Check online resources or a current coin guide. You might be holding something far more interesting than pocket change. Before you even think about improving the appearance of your 1945 penny, stop and hear this warning clearly. Never, under any circumstances, clean a wheat penny. Not with soap, not with baking soda paste, not with a chemical dip, and definitely not with a scrubbing pad. When you clean an old copper coin, you remove the natural patina that has taken decades to form, and that patina is actually a protective layer that collectors value immensely. Worse, cleaning leaves microscopic scratches that are obvious under magnification, and it often creates uneven color that looks unnatural. A coin that might have been worth $2,750 will instantly drop to perhaps $10 or $15 because it's been destroyed. If your penny is dirty or has green spots, leave it exactly as it is. Put it in a soft cardboard flip or a non-PVC plastic sleeve. Then take clear, well-lit photos and send them to a reputable coin dealer or auction house for an opinion. Let the experts tell you if it's worth gratting. Do not take matters into your own hands, because that one mistake is the difference between a $4,000 coin and a cringeworthy story. So here's the simple takeaway. That worn, dull, damaged-looking 1945 wheat penny you just pulled out of an old jar or received as change might look like nothing special, but it carries real value that most people will never see. It has historical weight, collector demand, and the potential to be worth anywhere from $920 to over $4,900 depending on its condition, mint mark, and any hidden errors. The only way to know is to slow down, examine it carefully, and resist the urge to clean it. Keep it safe, do your research, and remember that in the world of old coins, ugly often means original, and original often means valuable. Thanks for taking the time to look closer. Now go check your change. Second coin. The coin in your hand is a United States 1-cent wheat penny, dated 1952, with a tiny D mint mark stamped just below the year. The D means it was struck at the Denver Mint, a facility known for producing coins that were sent straight into the bustling post-war economy of the early 1950s. This penny lived through the Korean War, the election of Eisenhower, the first commercial television broadcasts, and the golden age of drive-in diners. It jingled in pockets, sat in cash registers, fell between sofa cushions, and somehow survived to end up in your grandmother's handkerchief. But instead of looking like a treasured heirloom, it looks tired and forgotten. The copper darkened to an uneven, almost bruised color, the wheat stalks on the back barely visible, and Lincoln's profile so soft that you have to tilt it under a lamp just to see his nose. And that, right there, is why most people would have already thrown this penny back into the junk drawer. They see the damage and assume the story is over. But the truth is, the story is just getting interesting. What makes the 1952 D wheat penny so easy to overlook isn't just its rough appearance, it's the date. 1952 sounds modern, almost common, especially compared to the really old pennies from the early 1900s. And the mintage numbers seem huge. Denver produced over 300 million of these cents that year. Surely something so common can't be worth anything, right? That's the trap. Because while millions were made, very, very few have survived in the kind of condition that makes collectors excited. Most 1952 D pennies were spent until they were slick, then spent some more, then eventually lost or melted. The ones that remain today are overwhelmingly beat up, discolored, and easy to dismiss. But buried among those ugly survivors are a handful that still hold sharp details, or unusual die characteristics, or just enough originality to command serious money. And here's the emotional heart of it. That ugly penny you almost threw away might be one of those survivors. Its value isn't in its beauty. Its value is in its quiet, stubborn refusal to disappear. So let's walk through exactly what you need to see on your 1952 D, even if it looks terrible. Turn the coin so Lincoln is facing you. Look at the date first. Can you read all 4 numbers clearly? A readable date is your first good sign. Directly underneath, look for the D mint mark. It might be faint, maybe partially worn away, but if you can see it at all, you've confirmed it's a Denver issue. Now flip the coin over to the reverse. The 2 wheat stalks that frame, 1 cent, are the heart of this design. Even on a worn coin, look for any trace of the individual kernels along the stalks. If you can see a few distinct kernels, especially near the center, that's better than you think. Now go back to Lincoln's face. Check the jawline, the cheek, and the area just in front of the ear. If those areas still show a clear separation between Lincoln's hair and his cheek, even with some wear, you've got a coin that's far above average. And here's a secret that most people never learn. A coin that looks dirty and discolored but has never been cleaned is actually more desirable to serious collectors than a shiny one that's been messed with. That black or greenish film, it's called patina, and it's proof of age and authenticity. Don't let ugliness fool you. Now let's talk about why anyone would pay good money for a coin that looks like it was buried in a garden for 50 years. The answer is rarity within condition, and the surprising fact that even circulated, ugly coins have a market. For a 1952 Wheat penny in what dealers call fair condition, where the date is readable but Lincoln is almost flat, you might still get $780 from a collector who needs that date and mint mark to complete a set. That's real money for a coin most people would spend on a gumball. Move up to good condition, where the wheat stalks show a clear outline and Lincoln's profile is fully visible, and you're looking at $1,250. In very good, with the kernels on the wheat starting to show detail and the letters in Liberty all readable, the value jumps to $2,050. If you're lucky enough to have a coin in fine condition, light wear only on the highest points, most details sharp, that same ugly penny becomes worth $3,300. And in the rare event that your 1952 has been sitting undisturbed in that handkerchief for 70 years and still retains original mint luster, even if it's darkened and discolored, the price can reach $4,600 or more at auction. But wait, there's another layer to this emotional story. Sometimes a 1952 penny is valuable not because of its condition, but because of a mistake made during minting. Look closely at the date and the word Liberty under magnification. Do you see any doubling, where the letters or numbers appear to have a shadow or a second outline? That could be a double die variety, and even on a worn, scratched coin, that error can multiply the value. Similarly, check the reverse wheat stalks for any repunched mint marks or odd spacing. These varieties are rare, but they turn up in the most unexpected places, like old jars, inherited collections, or even pocket change. The point is, that ugly, discolored penny in your hand might not just be a common coin with wear. It might be a specific variety that collectors have been hunting for years. And because it looks so unappealing, the previous owner never thought to have it checked. That's your opportunity. Approach it with patience, not with judgment. Before you feel any urge to make that penny look prettier, I need you to stop and hear this warning as if your grandmother were whispering it in your ear. Do not clean the coin. Not with soap, not with baking soda, not with vinegar, not with an eraser, not with anything. I know it looks dirty. I know you want to see the details better. But cleaning a copper penny strips away the natural patina that took decades to form, and it leaves behind a shiny, unnatural surface that collectors can spot from across a room. A coin that would have sold for $4,600 will become a $5 coin the moment you scrub it. The fingerprints, the microabrasions, the irreversible change in color, all of it destroys value. Instead, put the coin in a soft cardboard flip or a non-PVC plastic sleeve. Handle it only by the edges. Then take clear, well-lit photos, no flash, and send them to a reputable coin dealer or an online grading service. Let them tell you what you have. The only thing worse than overlooking a valuable coin is destroying its value with good intentions. So here, where we end, with that ugly, discolored, worn-out 1952 Wheat penny still sitting in your palm. It has been dismissed by most people who ever held it. It has been hidden away, forgotten, and nearly thrown out. But now you know better. That coin carries real value, anywhere from $780 to over $4,600 depending on its hidden details, and the story written in its scratches and patina. It deserves a second look, a gentle touch, and the respect of an open mind. So keep it safe, Don't clean it, and remember that the best treasures often come in the roughest packages. Thanks for listening to its story. Now go check your own old jars and drawers. You never know what's waiting to be found.